Parshas Shlach, something very nice from the Rebbe's father, Rebbe Yitzchok Zatzal. The Gemara in Megillah, Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, it says with the Apostle in the beginning of Megillah Sester, that by the party of Achashverosh, V'hashasiya Chados, the drinking was like the law. What does that mean? Says the Gemara in Megillah, Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, Kidos Shel Torah, just like Torah. We have in this week's Parshas Shlach. The Eibishter says when you bring a korban, there's a certain amount of wine that has to be poured on the mizbeach, and if you put together how much achila, how much eating there was from the animal, and how much wine there was a lot more eating than a lot more volume of food in comparison to the liquid from the wine. Same thing also says the Gemara, the party over there was a lot more achila, there was a lot more eating than drinking. Now this is Kedash Shel Torah, always eating should be more than drinking. Now everything has a reason, and Rabbi Levi is going to explain why achila, called also oichel, eating, should be more than drinking, and he'll explain it in the meaning of eating, and the main part of eating that gives a person sustenance, mozoin, and also very nice, interesting gematria. If a person looks, this explains the Chassidus in Torah and other places. If a person looks at the digestive system of how a person lives and he becomes healthy, a person has a body and a soul. That body and soul must have nourishment, bonds together. How? When you eat and you drink. But if you compare eating and drinking together, you will see that eating, achila, sustenance, solid foods, that goes in the category of chesed, as I'll soon explain. And drinking, in comparison to sustenance, in comparison to food items, it's compared to gevura. And Rabbi Levi explains very interesting like this. Again, what's based on Chassidus. The rule of chesed is, it connects, it bonds together, it attaches things together. The rule of gevura is, it separates. When you have separation, that brings to unfortunate things. Many, many examples, as we spoke in many, many videos. If a person looks at the digestive system, you will see a person can't live only by drinking. He needs solid foods. So the real energy that a person gets, that his body fills up and the soul and he grows, that comes from eating solids. Now, solids alone, if you eat, is detrimental because you need to digest properly. The way to digest the food, the solids, you must break it up. And that is the quality of the water, of the liquid. In this case, water, when it comes together with solids, it breaks it up, it separates it. And that helps the digestive system in a very proper way, in a very healthy way. So again, if a person would only have drinking, you wouldn't be able to grow, you won't be healthy. Where does a person get his main sustenance? He grows. That's the chasodim from the Eibishter. That's what we say that every time we have bread. Hazonah so'ilim, the Eibishter sustains the world. The chesed, the barachim, with kindness and with mercy. That's the solids. And that's the chesed of the Eibishter, as we say chesed the barachim. The Eibishter is kind to us. He gives us food. But in order for that food to digest in a healthy way, I need also that energy, that water or liquid, that should separate. It should break it up into particles, and that will help the digestive system. So that's called gevur. Gevur, the rule of gevur is always separating. For example, the word mavdil, says the Rebbe Yitzchok, mem beis daled yud lamet, which was the separation of like heaven and earth, which was on the second day of creation. The word mavdil adds up to the same numerical value as Elokim. It's known Havaya, Shemavaya, that's where things come together. That's God's revelation. Elokim, that's where the Gvur is, and that's why Elokim is, by the way, plural. For that reason, says Rebbe Yitzchok. As the name plural, a expression, Elokim, with a mem at the end. Because that's Gvur, separating, making different things. Elokim is that power from God that made this world look as if it's separated from God. A separation. Mavdil. with this, says Rabbi Yitzchok, a very interesting thing. He'll explain this in Gematria. But before that, this explains. I'm not going to go into it now. We once spoke about it. Why, halachically, food items can only become impure if they touch, let's say, a dead rat or something. Only if the food got in touch with liquid. I'll give you an example. If a dead rat touches flour, this flour was in a flour mill, you grinded it, it never had any contact with liquid. This flour cannot become impure. The rule is, when does any food item become susceptible? It means it's ready to receive a impurity only if it had contact with water. Because when we deal with water and solids is always chesed, and water is considered gevura. And that's brings sometimes negative forces. That's why it could bring tumah. That's this whole separate discussion. But here comes Rabbi Levi says a very nice thing. The word mozoin. Mozoin is sustenance. Hazon is oilam. The word mozoin. Mozoin adds up to 103. 103 says Rabbi Yitzchok. That adds up also to chesed, to kindness, as we said, that's 72. And in Tehillim it says, in Perik Nun Beis, Keil Lavai, chesed Keil Kol Hayom, Hashem's kindness is every day. So Keil, Aleph Lamed, is the name of chesed. So you take these two words together, Keil and chesed. Keil is 31, chesed 72, you get to 103, mozoin. Mozoin to show what's chesed. Same idea is also, we just said before, Havaya is expression of kindness of Hashem, revelation of godliness, bringing the world together with God, chesed. Take the word oichel, eating, aleph vov, chof lamed. Says Rebbe, this is broken up into two words, as if the first letter aleph and the last letter makes kale. The center, the middle letters is chovov, God's name. 26 is Havaya. So oichel is the name Kale, showing a chesed. Chesed Kale Kol Hayom. And the middle letters is Chavov, the miracle of God's name. All hinting together that the food items, that should be more. And this is a lesson for every single person. In a person's life, the lesson is from this week's Parsha, a person should always have more chesed than gevura, more eating than drinking. In a relationship with a husband and wife, a relationship with children. There should always be more kindness than things that are, in the realm of severity. Chesed always overpowers, not only a little bit, but if you look at this week's Parsha, it was much, much more meruba, as the Gemara calls it. And that's the lesson. Chesed should always be the abundance, and gevura should always be in a limited matter as much as possible.